All right, everybody, good afternoon. Welcome to the Chattering Magpies read along for the fanfic A World Away. Oh my goodness, we're almost at the finish line. I can see the light at the end of the tunnel. One more week, baby, and we are done with the story. Not that it's a bad thing or like that I wanna just get this over with, because it's not. At least I've had a blast, you guys. But but it has been an emotional roller coaster. Gang, what do you think? Are you excited for other adventures?
I'm excited to find out why I'm doing Eckhart again.
Ooh.
Yeah, I'm also excited to see what more you will bring us. And also, yes, I would like a little bit less angst in my life.
Don't worry. If you get more angst, it's not going to be because you're reading my works. I will not be writing angst fanfic anytime soon. I think that's also why I stopped writing Glutatat's Trials. There's going to be a little bit more angst in that one before the happiness kicks in. So the next one that I'm working on, which I don't think I'll be reading here anytime soon because it's going to take me at least 2 years to finish it. If 20 chapters, at the race I went, I have 20 chapters planned. So if what happened to A World Away happens to Pride and Prejudice and Bookworms, it will end up being 100 chapters. So we'll see. So anyway, the next one is not going to be angsty. It's going to be rom-com-ish, hopefully. Maybe that's what I'm aiming for. Anyway, but we do have other plans though, so do stay tuned. If you're enjoying these read-alongs, the gang and I, we're still going to be reading. We will be reading Anne of Green Gables once we finish, because I am going to be covering Anne of Green Gables on my other channel. So be excited for that, hopefully, and I hope you guys join us. All right. Let me say hello to the people on the YouTube chat, who happen to be the same people on the voice chat on this call. Hello, everybody. Thank you for your support. Seeing everybody. Hello, Harumi. Seeing people on the YouTube chat fills me with great delight, because then that I always have this sinking feeling that maybe people will not want to join the lives. So seeing you guys be active there makes me so happy. So I see Fergie. I'm going from the bottom up this time. Fergie says quack. Fergie, why did you just type quack? You could have just said it here. Come on, Fergie. Don't be shy. Quack. Quack.
Quack.
Nice. Let's see. We also had Tia, who said, "Good afternoon, peeps. A dark horizon looms." Ooh. There it is. Much like the one that rained on me at the zoo yesterday. Oh no, what happened? What? You didn't know it was gonna rain?
I did, but still sad.
No umbrella, no water coat, poncho.
Nah, it's Seattle, so you just,
That is
What are you doing in Seattle?
fascinating.
going to the zoo.
Okay, so I have heard though that in Seattle, like when it rains, people are just like whatever, they just keep walking or doing the thing out that.
Yeah, pretty much.
Is that really?
Well, if you try to not go outside when it's raining, you're never gonna go outside.
No, I mean, but
At
like
least in Washington.
no umbrellas, no umbrellas.
Some people do, but our raindrops are tiny, so it honestly feels more like getting misted than like drenched
Yeah.
most of the time.
Oh, okay.
The only problem with the reason why I don't like the rain over in Washington is it's freezing.
Oh.
And over here on the East Coast, it's warm.
Yeah.
Here is also a lot of rain these days, but still like only like small raindrops, and also the weather is pretty warm, so I've just been walking through the rain this past week.
I can imagine that you all have excellent skin. It's dry here. I mean, so have to make sure during the winter months and autumn to really moisturize and put some face oils and do the things, because I don't like dry weather. It just gets my hands all. But anyway, that's the price we pay for sunshiny skies, except that, you know, there's not a lot of sunshine where I'm at, which is kind of a bummer because April's coming and I was hoping to do like a birthday picnic or going out to the beach for my birthday, and if this weather keeps up, it's going to be gloomy and I don't look forward to that. So yeah, I need sunshine back just for a week. So anyway, Teal, I am glad that you, even though you got caught in the rain, that you survived it, and that you had shawarma at the Cheesecake Factory. Wait, the Cheesecake Factory has shawarma?
Yeah, for their winter menu.
What?
That's shawarma
Like a
and
special. It's-
and winter does one another.
It wasn't highly accurate, but it was good. It was like a pita bread taco more like than.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, it was good.
You know, you get the Cheesecake Factory booklet menu, and I used to always just scan it for like good stuff. I'm like, I'm gonna try something new, and then I would always order the same thing. My go-to was, I think it was like this chicken with like potatoes. That was like my go-to all the time. I forget what it was. It's been like 4 years since I had it, but now every time I just go to the Cheesecake Factory, I just get the same thing. I just get a pasta and a salad, and that's it. Call it a day. Like I maybe avocado rolls. Those, I think those are pretty good. But I just go to stuff my face with the bread and the pasta, and that's it. Because for vegetarians, it's like not really exciting. Yeah.
Well, people don't go to the Cheesecake Factory for cheesecake, huh?
Well, yeah, you do. You do actually.
I had a slice of chocolate mousse cheesecake.
Yum. My favorite is the Godiva one. Ooh, that one is so good. Yeah, so you know what, Tia, between you and I, we're just gonna spend the afternoon talking about food, so maybe we should just kind of continue on.
Yep.
Right. So hi Remy was also in the chat. Hello, hi Remy. We're gonna get started soon, so you and also Fergie have to leave early, so I will not dilly-daddle after having dilly-daddled for 80 minutes. Hirami says hello and says ready to be evil again today. That's right, Hirami is ready to take up her role, reprise her role as Chaosopher. Ooh, so excited for that. Also,
but Emmy's not the evil one. It's Yukihime. She's being a bully.
And speaking of Yukihime was the very first one on the chat. Says hey. It says just 3 more episodes filled with emotions, and then I will miss this whole thrill ride so much. I know, but the good thing is you can always go back to listen to the read-alongs. Always a fun time to just experience this thing over again if you really want to do that to yourself. I mean, there's all kinds of people who like all kinds of things, so if you like to inflict that upon yourself again, then by all means go. Who am I to yuck your yum? All right. All right, you guys. So happy to see everybody here. We got some people on the YouTube. If you haven't said hello, just say hello, because I see there's several concurrent viewers that are not from this chat. So let's do this, you guys. We're going to read chapter 110 on this beautiful Friday afternoon. No, wait, 116, right? No, 115. 115. Thank you. 115 on this beautiful Friday afternoon. And the chapter is titled Dark Horizon, Part 1. This is the finale chapter, except I had to split it in 2 because it was so long. So we'll do Part 1 today, Part 2 tomorrow, and then the epilogue. Part 1 today, Part 2 on Wednesday, and epilogue on Friday. So we should be good. 1 more week, you guys. All right, Dark Horizon, Part 1, Chapter 115 will be read by the following people. Ferdinand will be read by JC Fergie. Eckhart, yes, we got Eckhart lines today, will be read by Patrick. Myne and Rosamine will be read by Teal. Aurelia and Adelaide will be read by Yukihime. Dolores will be read by Magpie, as well as Elvira. Elvira will be read by Magpie, of course. And then we have the baddies of this chapter. We have... my mind is going all over the place. Baddies used to mean something else, but now it means something else entirely, you guys. I did not know that. Anyway, baddies... the bad person, or I guess you could call it the bad person. Anyway, The baddie is going to be Chaosifer, and Grawenthal will be read by Hirami. And you guys, I am excited. So excited that I can't even put words together, string sentences together. Let's just do this, you guys. Last time that we read, we had the unfortunate end of Yurgenschmidt. Chaosifer hurled the herb, which exploded in the ground and caused the Royal Academy to just go boom. Caught up.
She hurled the herb.
Caught up into this mess was Eckhart, who was trying to transfer over Rosamine to the sovereignty, except that he got in a fight with a guy called Goenthal, just some guy, and he got wounded by this black mana blade, and so he died. Yep. So we get a little bit of something in this chapter. It'll be interesting because we do have Patrick reprising Eckhart again, so we'll see what happens. Anyway, without further ado, let us read chapter 115, Dark Horizon. And by the way, I want to say thank you to Hirami who highlighted this. Hirami, I did not forget you. Thank you for your hard work on this. Let's do this, everybody. A World Away. Chapter 115. Dark Horizon, Part 1. Summary. The world is ending. Chaosifer is having a blast. Everyone else suffers. Horror gripped Ferdinand's chest as Chaosifer's orb hurled earthward. It tore through the air with an unholy shriek, burning like a black meteor, faster than any spell he could cast to intercept it. Inky tendrils of darkness trailed in its wake, writhing like strands of a living nightmare. The sky itself darkened in its wake, the air twisting as though suffocating beneath its presence. Clouds boiled away into vapor, swallowed by the encroaching shadow. Ferdinand could only watch, helpless and paralyzed by the enormity of what was unfolding before him.
Too late. I'm too late.
Though Ferdinand floated high above, the sound as the orb struck the earth reached him. A splintering, thundering crack that seemed to tear the world asunder. The earth didn't merely tremble at the impact, it howled, a sound no mortal was ever meant to hear. The death cry of a world. Ferdinand barely had time to shield himself before the shockwave, rising fast and furious from below, struck him, hurling him through the sky like a leaf in a storm. When he steadied himself, Ferdinand turned his gaze downward once more, and despair turned his blood to ice. The Royal Academy Central Building, the ancient nexus of Yurgenschmidt, the very heart of their country, disintegrated into fragments of stone and mana, just before they were engulfed by a column of searing light which shot skyward, brilliant and blinding. This light was no ordinary magic. This variegated prismatic beam was the lifeblood of Yurgenschmidt itself, pouring out from a mortal wound. Ferdinand's gaze darted across the landscape, cities crumbling, forests withering to ash, the land splitting apart as tendrils of darkness reached greedily outward, swallowing all they touched. He didn't know how, but from this vantage, high above the ground, he could see the full breadth of the devastation lay bare before him. But what was even more horrifying was the sound. He could hear it all, the anguished cries of dying people, their voices blending with the groans of the earth, the panicked calls of birds, babies, and fleeting animals, all forming a chilling symphony of total devastation. As if it were not enough, the protective seals and circles that bound Yurgenschmidt's magic together began to flicker before they faded. The magic that had sustained their world for millennia was bleeding away, draining into nothingness, leaving everyone susceptible to the harsh judgment of the god of life himself. As the clouds beneath him had vanished entirely, he had an unobstructed view of the devastation below. He could see to the farthest corners of Yurgenschmidt with terrible clarity, even the far-off walls and the gates that had protected them from the white sands beyond. Those ancient barriers had stood unbreached for as long as history could reach back. Now, they were failing. Ferdinand felt each gate shatter like a physical blow, each one tearing away a piece of his soul. The life gate was the first to go, of course. It was followed by the rest in order of depletion levels. Auschwitz Gate, gone, its mighty pillars crumbling to dust. The Glissenmeyer Gate, gone, leaving only emptiness where it had stood. Ehrensbach, Klassenberg, Dunkelfelger, gone, gone, gone. And then Ferdinand's eyes darted frantically to the horizon, searching for the only place that still mattered. Ehrenfest, his home, the land he had sworn to protect, even as he had been forced to abandon it. Far in the distance, its walls still stood, but barely. The magic holding up the barriers flickered, like a failing heartbeat. Beyond them, the white sand stirred, hungry, eager.
No.
Ferdinand whispered as he watched that final gate also crumble to white sand. A soft, satisfied hum drifted to his ear. He turned to find her, Chaosopher. Her inhuman crimson eyes gleamed with sick amusement, a twisted satisfaction playing across her lips. She wasn't just watching the world end, she was savoring it. Savoring the end of all that Ferdinand held dear. That moment, a deep, burning revulsion and hatred washed over him, stronger than he had ever felt before, as he watched her smile with cruel pleasure, savoring the horror unfolding below.
Ah, what a beautiful sight.
She sighed, her voice dripping with perverse ecstasy.
After 10,000 years of endless stagnation, change has finally arrived. From this ash and dust, something new, something better will arise.
A surge of pure white-hot rage coursed through Ferdinand's veins. Even drained of mana, even knowing it was futile, he still called forth his Stab.
I will stop you.
He growled, his fingers tightening around his sword.
No matter the cost!
With trembling resolve, he raised his arm, defiant to the very end. Chaosopher regarded his feeble attempt with amusement, letting out a sharp, mocking laugh as she tilted her head back.
Stop me?
She scoffed.
Look around you. There's nothing left to save.
Her lips curled in a mocking smile.
Besides, don't you have somewhere to be?
Ferdinand blinked and realized that all this time he'd just been wasting time. Ehrenfest was falling just like all the other ruined duchies, and the heart of Yurgenschmidt was bleeding out as Ferdinand looked on, wasting time. His chest tightened. No, his chest clenched, breath ragged as realization struck like a hammer to the gut. He should be there, not here, chasing an impossible battle, not standing in the presence of a monster, reveling in his failure. He should be there, with her. A raw, agonized roar tore from his throat. He bellowed out in utter, frustrated, helpless fury as he raised his sword. He lunged, but Chaosopher barely spared him a glance. With a lazy flick of her wrist, she sent him hurling backward. The impact was instantaneous. One moment he was barely keeping his seat on his high beast. The next he was falling, plummeting downward, tumbling through the air toward the pillar of light erupting from the broken heart of Yurgenschmidt. As he fell, faces blurred before his eyes, each one a knife to his heart. People he'd fought to protect, people who trusted him to save them. Sylvester, his brother and the only true family he had ever known. Eckhart and Eustace and Lastfram too, his loyal retainers who had served faithfully, and sworn to follow him to his wretched fate without hesitation. And yet, there were more than he'd expected. There were commoners and nobles alike, good innocent people who never deserved his fate, people who would perish because he hadn't been strong enough, because he'd failed. But amidst those faces, one remained clearest of all and refused to fade. And then there was Rosamine, the woman who had crossed worlds and timelights to enter his life, teaching him the exquisite bliss and agony of love and all its brilliant, maddening glory in the process. She would survive this apocalypse. This dying world, apparently, was not her true home. He knew that she would return to that seaside paradise she'd come from, where gentle sunlight bathed the world in endless beauty, and libraries and knowledge flourished without constraint. A perfect world. A world that he had once, foolishly, dared to imagine sharing with her. He had let himself dream of drowning in her love, in her kisses, beneath kind skies that knew no war, no suffering. A life spent at her side, free of the burdens and the ever-present guilt and responsibility that chained him here. But just as this world was never hers, that world was never meant for him. Rosamine would live on in her paradisical Alexandria, untouched by devastation, and in that knowledge he found a twisted, bitter solace. But Myne was still here. She was the one person that tugged painfully at his heart. When he thought of her, the guilt twisted inside him like a blade, sharp and unrelenting. Even now, as the world crumbled and his body hurled toward oblivion, the memory of her was what lingered. Would there ever be a day when he didn't see that look? The pain, the hurt, the betrayal, etched across her face as he rejected her so completely beneath the light of Shutsaria's purple moon. Now, at the end of all things, he finally had his answer. No. It would haunt him until his final breath. She was the one person who still gave his life meaning in this broken world, the one duty he had yet to fulfill. Leaving her to face this nightmare alone was unthinkable. Even if it meant giving up his only chance at peace with Rosamine in her paradise, he could not turn back on his promises. He had sworn to her father that he would protect her, that he would keep her safe and ensure her happiness. And Eckhart, the man she loved, the man who should have been her family if not for this tragedy, had made him promise the same. Eckhart had entrusted Myne to him, had followed Ferdinand's final command without hesitation, had given his life so that Eckhart could keep that vow. Myne needed him now more than ever. She was out there, somewhere in this shattered world, perhaps afraid, perhaps alone, and Ferdinand would not let her face the end without him. Chaosopher's mocking words rang in his mind as he plunged into the blinding brilliance of the pillar of light.
Don't you have somewhere to be?
Yes, he did.
I'm coming, Myne. Wait for me.
The light swallowed him whole, searing and absolute, and Ferdinand, son Ehrenfest, disappeared into the heart of a dying world. Ehrenfest. Earlier. It was Earth Day, the first day of the Archduke Conference. Dawn broke over the Linkberg estate with breathtaking beauty. The sky blushed in delicate hues of pink and lavender as if the gods themselves had painted their masterpiece across the heavens. Birdsong filled the air, offering their chorus to the new day, and the gardens sparkled with morning dew, each droplet capturing sunlight like countless tiny jewels scattered across petals and leaves. Inside the estate, servants moved with quiet efficiency through the hallways, preparing for the day ahead. The rich aroma of breakfast drifted through the kitchen as fires crackled to life. Heavy curtains were drawn back, and windows were opened to welcome in the morning light and the fresh, breeze. No one could have suspected that this perfect spring morning would be the world's last. Upstairs, within the confines of her beautiful room, Myne stirred under the covers and woke with a sigh. Her body felt heavy with exhaustion. Sleep had eluded her most of the night. Her dreams had been dark and fragmented, filling her heart to the brim with shapeless dread. But it was little Esperanza who had truly kept her awake. The child within her had been kicking and shifting restlessly, as if sensing something her mother could not. Throughout the night, Myne repeatedly pressed her hands against her belly, whispering soft, reassuring words to calm her restless child. But when her efforts failed, she turned to the only comfort left to her, Veritas. With no other recourse, she pulled out the blue gleaming mana blade and set it beside her, to recite aloud from a third-year curriculum history textbook. The prose was dry, the content beyond dull, but spoken in Eckhart's warm, steady voice, it became something else entirely, almost like a gentle lullaby. Slowly, the tension in her body eased as the words weaved a gentle spell about her. The child inside her stilled as well, and, as Veritas droned on, steady and unwavering in Eckhart's voice, both mother and child finally drifted into slumber. Now, as the morning light filtered softly through the curtains, her baby was still. It was too early to rise, so Myne remained where she was, letting the quiet peace of dawn settle over her. With a sigh, she reached for Eckhart's latest letter, running her fingers over the familiar parchment, before unfolding it, to read in the gentle glow of the morning.
I promise.
The letter read,
The next time we meet, and it will be very soon, I will come bearing an offering of flowers. You'll open your eyes in the morning light, and I will be there, right beside you.
Myne put the letter down and blinked back tears. Her heart swelled with love for her husband's earnest promises.
How soon will that be?
She whispered aloud. But as she glanced around the room, the heaviness in her heart eased. The chamber had been transformed into a garden. Vases overflowing with bouquets were on every available surface, the fragrance rich and intoxicating. She breathed in the sweet perfume, a wistful smile touching her lips as she recalled Delia's exasperated complaints. Yes, he had gone a touch overboard, but that was just like him. Thoughtful, thorough, expressing through grand gestures what he likely struggled to put into words now that they were apart. Luckily, she could always send him a message and bridge the vast distance between them. She reached for his namestone, closed her eyes, and carefully channeled a small stream of mana into it.
Good morning, my love. The flowers still bloom and are as lovely as ever. Our baby was restless in the night and kept me up, but she's sleeping peacefully now. I think she misses her father as much as I do. But we will wait patiently for you and hope you have a wonderful day.
She held the stone a moment longer, imagining Eckhart receiving the words, picturing his smile breaking through his usually serious expression. She hoped she hadn't interrupted him, and with a sigh, carefully put away the namestone. She was, of course, unaware that at that exact moment, he was already up and making his way to his master's chambers to start his workday. He had stopped mid-step, one hand braced against the cold stone wall, overcome by the gentle whisper of her voice in his mind, and the feel of her mana enveloping around him like a loving embrace. For one breathless moment, he ached for her, for the scent of flowers in her hair, for the weight and warmth of her naked body against his as she lay asleep atop him.
Tonight.
He promised himself, quickening his pace.
I will send a letter tonight, even if I must stay awake until dawn to write it.
And so, both of them moved through their separate mornings, tending to their duties, unaware of the invisible threads of fate tightening around them. unaware that, for them, as well as for everyone else in Yurgenschmidt, there would be no tonight and no tomorrow to look forward to. There would only ever be a swift and merciless end at the strike of fourth bell. Myne was not alone when Eckhart's last testament reached her. She was sitting on the garden terrace, embroidering with Lady Elvira, Aurelia, little Adelaide, and Dolores, who, of course, had stayed behind during the Archduke conference, since she was still not yet of age. With both Cornelius and Carstead away, there was no one to object, and Elvira had deemed it safe to welcome Dolores into their company for a discreet little gathering in the garden. The conversation drifted around little Adelaide's progress in reading and education, the women laughing softly at the child's determined recitations and giving her encouragement and praise. Amidst their chatter, Dolores leaned closer to Myne, her voice barely above a whisper. "Where's the hersphere?" she asked, her crimson eyes sharp with concern. "You're supposed to be wearing it for safety." Myne stiffened, her cheeks coloring in surprise. She had completely forgotten about it. Across from her, Rosina also blinked, realization dawning on her face. She had placed it on her mistress the previous day, but had not returned it to its usual box at night. Myne started, scrambling for an excuse. She couldn't very well tell Dolores the truth that her sister Tully had found the stone's shifting colors unsettling and had convinced her to stop wearing it until she could uncover the cause. But before she could answer, the moment was shattered.
Myne!
The cry tore through the air, not with her ears, but directly into her mind, vibrating through her very bones. Myne gasped, her hand flying to her throat as she recognized the voice echoing across what felt like an impossible distance. She rose abruptly, knocking back her chair with such force that it clattered against the stone floor. The other women cried out in alarm at the sudden outburst.
"Eckhart, is that you?"
Her voice emerged as a whisper, though her now racing heart screamed his name in return. "Myne, what is the matter?" Elvira demanded, her sharp dark eyes narrowing with concern, the embroidery forgotten in her lap.
"This is Myne. Are you all right?"
Little Adelaide cried out, clutching her sampler to her chest like a shield, her cherubic face crumpling as concern and anxiety filled her blue eyes. But Myne was already beyond their reach. Their voices called to her, but their words reached her as if through water, growing distant until she could no longer hear them. Her eyes darted frantically around the garden, seeking the impossible. A glimpse of him, a shadow, anything. Her heart thundered in her chest with such violence she feared it might burst through her ribs.
"Eckhart, where?"
She began, but the question died on her lips. The air before her rippled like heat above summer stones. The garden blurred and fractioned around her. The fresh scent of herbs and flowers, the drowsy hum of bees, the dappled sunlight through the trees, all dissolved as brilliant light swallowed her whole. The light vanished in the blink of an eye, and she found herself disoriented, standing in a place she'd never seen before.
"Where am I?"
Gone was the garden and the women she'd been with. Instead, she stood in a long white marble passage that seemed to belong in a grand palace. Yet the air was acrid, tainted with smoke and something else, something dark and dangerous. A laugh cut through the air, unfamiliar, yet instantly chilling. It held a sharp edge of cruelty and malice. Myne whipped her head toward the sound, and that was when she saw him. Eckhart. He was grimacing, his once proud and strong stance now faltering. His face was ashen, drained of color, and his blood-soaked hand was pressed against his side, where tendrils of sinister dark smoke rose from the wound.
"Eckhart!"
She cried, gathering her heavy skirts as she ran toward him with desperate speed, her swollen belly barely slowing her panic-driven steps as she jumped over a figure that lay crumpled on the ground.
Eckhart!
However, when she reached out to help him, she couldn't see her hands. No matter what she did, she wasn't able to interact with him. It almost felt like she was watching a movie. She called out, but he didn't react at all, like he didn't even know she was there.
His name's stone.
Myne cursed inwardly. Of course! She didn't have it with her in this disembodied state. And without it, she was merely a phantom here, unable to reach him when he needed her the most. But no, closing her eyes, she summoned all her concentration. She had used a namestone just that morning to send him a message. She knew its contours intimately, the weight, the texture, the faint magic it always radiated. She visualized it in her mind exactly as it was, focusing on the connection it represented rather than the physical object. Against all reason, against all the laws of magic she had ever learned, she felt something respond to her desperate need.
Eckhart!
She called through the ethereal connection.
Myne? Is that you?
It worked.
But in her moment of exultation, her focus wavered, and the tenuous connection severed like a thread cut by scissors. When she opened her eyes again, she saw a nobleman standing exultingly over Eckhart, tall, elegantly dressed, and with a face that might have been handsome were it not twisted with contempt. This was undoubtedly the man who had wounded her beloved, now gloating as he watched Eckhart struggle. Myne positioned herself between them, instinctively protective despite her incorporeal state. She bared her teeth like a she-wolf defending her mate, a primal fury rising within her that she had never known herself capable of feeling.
What is wrong, Eckhart?
The man leered, circling like a predator toying with its wounded prey. His boots clicked precisely against the marble floor, each step measured and deliberate.
Is it too much for you? Does your master need to come and save you?
He gestured mockingly with a blade that gleamed unnaturally in the half-light, its dark edge pulsing with an eerie energy.
Maybe he will come running when he hears you whimpering like a dog.
Stay away from him!
Myne snarled, feeling every hair on her body stand on end as murderous intent surged through her veins like liquid fire. Though she knew her ghostly form could do nothing, her instinct to protect what was hers blazed with primal fury. But against all expectations, Eckhart was far from defeated. With a thunderous roar, he lunged at his opponent. The movement held such explosive speed and lethal grace that Myne blinked in stunned disbelief. One moment he was braced against the wall, seemingly defeated. The next he was a blur of pure, controlled violence. His blade sang through the air with deadly intent. The nobleman's smug expression shattered into open shock as he barely managed to parry the attack, the impact sending him staggering backward.
Impossible.
Wasn't he supposed to be wounded?
Myne thought, watching in awe as Eckhart pressed his advantage, his movements betraying no hint of the agony he must be suffering. Each strike was calculated, efficient, born of years of disciplined training. And if this was Eckhart fighting while grievously injured, what fearsome power did he possess at full strength? Myne watched, mesmerized.
So this is Eckhart.
She realized, watching her husband transform before her eyes. This was the warrior that everyone in Ehrenfest whispered about in hushed, respectful tones. This was the power that thrummed, hot and alive and barely contained under his skin, that raced in his very veins. This was the same ardent lover who embraced her at night, the protector who watched over her sleep, the father who spoke and wrote such touching letters about his eagerness to meet his unborn child. this man, who simmered with lethal danger, was the kind of man she had given herself to completely, the kind who had sworn with steel in his voice and fire in his eyes to protect her and their family until his last breath. Witnessing him now, magnificent in his controlled fury, Myne felt her heart swell with pride and devotion. If she hadn't already been besotted with him beyond all reason, she would have fallen in love with him again in this very moment, watching him fight, not for glory, but for duty and the chance to return to her side. Another strike, precise, merciless. She was not surprised when she saw Eckhart disarm the man with a powerful kick that sent the blade skittering across the polished marble floor, far beyond the nobleman's desperate reach. Without hesitation, Eckhart plunged his sword into the man's chest with cold precision. The sight was horrific. The spray of crimson, the sick sound of steel-piercing flesh. Myne instinctively moved to turn away, to shield herself from the brutality of it. As she did, she heard a sound of complaint beside her. A horrified whimper so faint she nearly missed it beneath the sound of Eckhart's labored breathing. Turning, Myne's eyes widened with shock as she realized that the slumped form she had jumped over earlier was none other than a woman bound in cords who looked exactly like her.
Who are you?
Myne exclaimed. She expected the other woman to be deaf to her incorporeal presence, but the woman seemed to sense something. Her head lifted slightly, eyes searching the empty air around her, as if hunting for the source of a whisper. But Eckhart was already towering above them both, and the sight of him drove all other thoughts from Myne's mind. He was panting heavily, his face drawn and pale. The unnatural strength that had fueled his attack had abandoned him, leaving behind a gravely wounded man now fighting for consciousness. In her renewed concern, Myne forgot entirely about the bound woman. But not Eckhart. For whatever reason Eckhart deemed necessary, he hoisted the bound woman over his shoulder with a grunt of effort that spoke volumes of his deteriorating condition. For she couldn't have been any bigger than Myne herself, and he had never, ever had a problem lifting her. Still, he continued down the hallway on unsteady legs, each step a battle against his failing body, which only spoke of his impressive iron will. Myne saw with mounting horror the trail of dark blood he left behind.
Eckhart!
Myne cried out as he finally fell heavily to his knees, no longer able to maintain even the pretense of strength. He dropped his human cargo unceremoniously to the floor beside him, his breathing now shallow and rapid.
Let me help.
Myne heard the woman try to reason with him.
Please, Eckhart!
Eckhart was unable to respond. He was so weak. Desperate, Myne tried to reach him again. She closed her eyes and visualized his namestone, the connection forming more easily this time, like a well-worn path.
Barely heard you. Try it again.
Eckhart!
She called, channeling not just a trickle of mana as before, but a steady torrent, all that she could summon from her core. She sent it flowing to him, lending him her strength, her life force, her very essence.
Eckhart, wake up! Don't give up. You promised.
Myne.
His reply came to her across the void, fainter than before, but unmistakable. When she opened her eyes, she saw to her profound relief that a hint of color had returned to his cheeks. More importantly, he was moving again, his hands working with purpose. It puzzled her that he chose to unbind the other woman, but Myne's confusion turned to relief when the stranger proved not to be an enemy, but an ally. From somewhere, had Eckhart given it to her? The woman produced Fultraina's wand and began to heal him. Myne had witnessed many magic rituals in the temple, had herself performed more than a few, but never had she seen magic healing like this. She was momentarily spellbound by the shimmering light that flowed from the wand to Eckhart's wound, knitting flesh and staunching blood, until the ground beneath them shook violently, interrupting the healing flow. The black tendrils of smoke continued to rise from Eckhart's side somehow.
Don't stop. Please, don't stop.
Myne entreated the woman, though she knew her words could not be heard. The other woman's hands trembled visibly, as did her lips, which had drained of all color.
It's here,
she whispered, her voice barely audible in the hushed corridor. What came next was like something torn from the darkest nightmares. Myne was forced to watch, helpless and horrified, as Eckhart, putting everything on the balance of a single moment's choice, followed his duty above all else.
Lord Ferdinand, can he be saved?
Eckhart asked, each word a battle against tremendous pain.
What are you talking about? Where is Ferdinand, anyway?
Unfortunately, no one was around to answer her questions. The other woman, however, answered with unshakable certainty.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Eckhart whispered softly, as if to himself, as if to her.
I had a duty to you, and I failed you.
No.
Myne yelled as she watched him push away the healing hands of the woman who looked so much like her.
No. Eckhart, please don't give up. You promised to come back to us, to be with me when our child was born. You promised me that we would be a family together. Don't give up. Don't leave me alone. I can't live in a world where you don't exist.
Myne had expected it, of course. He wouldn't be Eckhart if he hadn't chosen to prioritize his lord, even if it meant sacrificing himself. But the reality of it still carved a wound in her heart deeper than any blade could reach. As she watched the other woman stand and turn away, Myne ran after her.
Please, please don't go. Don't abandon him.
She begged through tears that no living soul could see.
Save him, somehow. Please.
But her cries went unheard, her pleas unheeded as the woman disappeared from sight, her footsteps fading into the distance.
Surely this is a nightmare.
She thought desperately.
Somebody, please wake me up.
The devastation threatened to consume her entirely, but through her grief she recognized the truth of it. This was Eckhart's way. His duty was the core of his being. She heard the distant rumble of thunder, or maybe it was an explosion. Myne couldn't tell. All that mattered was getting back to Eckhart, where he lay motionless, his breathing growing shallow with every passing second. Maybe there was still something she could do. Maybe... Desperate, she sank beside him, drawing as close to him as she could, as if she could somehow hold him together with the sheer force of her presence. Looking at his dear face through her tears, she ached to caress it, to kiss his lips, or at the very least wipe away the blood that stained it. Her heart shattered as she watched him slip away, his life fading with every tremor of the ground beneath them. For a third time she reached out, pouring mana into him, wrapping his soul with hers. Deep down, she knew it was futile. A part of her was saying that maybe she should let him go, and let him slip away peacefully, as he deserved. But she couldn't. She couldn't let him die alone. If this was the end, it would stay with him. Stay with him until the very last breath. She focused on channeling just enough mana, not to prolong his life, but so that he could feel her, so that he could know he wasn't alone.
My,
His voice barely reached her, a fragile whisper.
my, my love.
And suddenly he was there with her, as a flood of memories washed over her, his presence enveloping her mind, as vivid and as real as if time itself had unraveled. The first gaudily colorful flowers he had ever given her, large waxy petals, dewy and vibrant. Their awkward courtship, arranged by his master, a later blossoming into something genuine and rare. They had been strangers at first, then friends, then something more. Something infinitely more meaningful and beautiful than she had ever dreamed she could have. She remembered that starlight vigil when they'd begun to forge what would become the unbreakable bond of trust and love. The wild flight to the lake when he'd plunged into the ravine, terrifying her. The first undeniable stirrings of attraction and awareness she'd felt on that day, first when he'd unceremoniously discarded his shirt, muscles glistening in the sunlight, and then later under the ethereal light of the moonflowers, their violet luminescence casting his strong, handsome features in striking relief. She remembered the thrill of adventure and the warmth and safety of his arms as he'd flown her home, streaking through the night sky, alight with a kind of joy and excitement she had never experienced before. She remembered the rumbling sound of his quiet chuckles when they read together, how his deep voice rose and fell as he read books to her late into the night. She recalled the taste of his lips, sweet as honey, warm as the summer, and far more intoxicating than the finest visa. She remembered how infinitely patient he'd been with her hesitations and fears. Recalled the exquisite sensation of his fingertips tracing constellations across her skin, igniting a heady rush of hot desire that was both overwhelming and perfect. Their disastrous first night, and how somehow he had been so tender with her afterwards when she'd clung to him and cried. And then the moment when his eyes, intense and blue as the boundless sky, had pierced her very soul when he had demanded the truth. How her very heart had cracked open under his gaze, vulnerable and exposed. It was then that she had realized she loved him, truly, completely, irrevocably. And that love had been a treasure beyond measure, worth more than all the libraries and all the books and all the precious words ever written in the world. And now she was losing it all, losing him. She was falling once again, about to shatter against the jagged rocks of cruel reality. This time there would be no one to catch her, no one to gather the shattered remnants of her heart and soul, no one to piece her back together with love and tenderness and quiet understanding, because Eckhart, the only one who ever could, would be gone from this world forever. What else was there to live for? How could she face a world where she would have to tell her child about the father they'd never known? How could she be expected to be strong and endure it all if there was no Eckhart by her side? It was as futile as coaxing flowers from the frozen ground without spring's warmth. She had tried to embody the Lindbergh strength, to be the dutiful woman capable of weathering any loss or tragedy with grace and dignity. But in the end, she was no Lady Elvira. She loved Eckhart more fiercely than that ideal, and without him, such strength held no purpose. Above them, a ball of fire exploded, deafening, devastating, final.
I love you.
She cried, feeling the weight of the world collapse around them as stone and choking dust crashed down upon them.
Don't worry. We'll be together soon.
She felt his heartbeat falter, flutter, then fade. The brilliant sun of her life extinguished at last. And then everything went white, as light pure and blinding, consumed her vision once again. Dolores barely had time to react before Myne collapsed, her body going limp in her arms. "Myne!" she cried, her voice sharp with panic. Gasps and cries of alarm erupted around them. Little Adelaide burst into tears, clinging to her mother's skirts as she sobbed uncontrollably. "Aurelia, take your daughter back home!" Lady Elvira commanded in urgent tones.
Yes, Lady Elvira.
Aurelia replied immediately, though her eyes betrayed her concern. She hadn't known Myne for long, but she had quickly come to admire her, especially with how much Adelaide adored her. Was she going to be all right? Would the baby be safe? She could only hope as she gathered her trembling daughter close. Dolores's face was granite, her eyes locked on Angelica as she lifted Myne's unconscious form. "Don't even think about it," she muttered, her voice low and dangerous as she adjusted her hold on Myne. She was not about to relinquish her best and only friend to another's care, and without a moment's pause she strode forward, carrying her effortlessly into the house. Elvira was already moving beside her, her sharp gaze scanning Myne's face for any sign of what had happened, issuing orders to their attendants as they went. Amidst the uproar, Aurelia hesitated for just a moment, something catching her eye in the late morning light. The floor, where Myne had been standing moments ago, was wet. Her breath hitched. Not just wet, streaked with something darker. The unmistakable stain of blood swirled within the water.
Trinduch has come to visit.
She whispered in horror.
It's still too early. And with the Archduke conference starting today, Lord Eckhart won't be able to be here.
As if in answer to her dread, the ground beneath her feet trembled. Aurelia and her attendants cried out as she cradled her whimpering child, holding her close, while the first tremors of their dying world reached far-off Ehrenfest at long last. End of chapter.
Well,
Oof.
Oh, let me just take a moment to breathe, you guys. You guys
yeah,
are so good
that
at reading
was
this.
that was quite a chapter.
It was. I mean, I know. I wasn't necessary to see Eckhart's death twice. Probably not. I'm sorry. It just. Yeah.
Well, we got
Makes
Eckhart's perspective, and then we got Myne's perspective because, well, obviously he was giving her his last will, which I'm kind of surprised the noble women around Myne didn't recognize that was what it was.
Right. Maybe Elvira suspects, or maybe they're just in denial. I mean, I would want to like leave that as the last possible explanation, because that means that person's dead, basically.
Yeah, but when Rosamund received Ferdinand's will, everybody, I feel like everybody in the room was just confused. Like they didn't really understood what happened. They just saw her jumping out. No?
I don't think that phenomenon is very often witnessed in Yurgenschmidt. Like, yes, it's been told about in stories and it's been recorded on record that people have seen it, but to like be a witness to it from a third-person perspective, maybe it's not as common or as documented.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I agree that it's probably not a common phenomenon to witness, but I feel like people around Rosamund recognized it and said, "Yeah, that was someone's last will," and they attributed it to Ferdinand almost immediately.
Yeah, so I think that's also a thing, like one denial to who is it? Whose was it? Was it Ferdinand's or Eckhart's? And oh yeah.
Oh yeah, spoilers for the main timeline if people listening haven't read that far.
But if you are, why are you here?
Wait, are you talking about the novel?
Exactly.
Right. So, oh my goodness, if you're maybe Time Lord Boy, he sometimes hops aboard. He what a good sport. Sometimes he hops aboard the streams and says hello, but he has not read A Sense of a Bookworm. If you're listening and you have never read A Sense of a Bookworm, well, welcome. And what are you doing? Go read it immediately. Hop aboard.
Yes, read that. It is such
33
a good
volumes.
story.
33
It's
volumes.
amazing.
It's great. Trust me.
Yes, it'll keep you busy for a very, very long time.
Or maybe like
At
at
least
least
a
a month. Yeah, I think you can read it all in a month. I know I did.
Okay, speed readers.
Hey, it was a precious summer during the COVID times, so I basically had just and I had just gotten laid off. So I was just like, whatever, I'm just gonna like do nothing. So I had plenty of time in my hands. Yeah, so
I also was reading fanfics about like this one that are after the end, basically, like with a lot of spoilers. But I was like in like part 2 or something.
I'm still in denial that you haven't read Hannelore, because you're gonna get major spoiled by this one, but okay.
Yes, why haven't you read Hannelore?
Keep keeping up with the pre-pubs.
Okay, fine, okay. Just don't blame me if I say something in this fanfic. Anyway, but it's
And I'm not apologizing either.
it's no big deal.
Yeah, I don't have problems with spoilers because, like, I was spoiled about so many things about the ending of Ascendance of a Bookworm, and then I went ahead and read when the pre-pubs were coming out, and like I was constantly surprised because there's just so much. So like. This is a series that you can spoil so much and still have surprises at every single step. I feel like, but it still was very funny because at the end I was like, "Where is the time travel in?"
Yes,
I was
me
very
too.
confused about that.
Me too. I even made a Reddit post. I was still new. I was like, Rosamine's time travel adventures, and that was the headline. And I said, "Where are they? Where does it say?" I keep finding all these like fan arts. Where's that coming from? And then like 1 minute later, I get a mod says your post has been deleted for for spoilers. I was like, God darn. So yeah, I was very confused. Yeah. So yeah, Bookworm is one of those stories that it can withstand you knowing all of the big like shock events, because there's so much like the path to getting to those things. It's so surreal, you guys. Like, okay, how is it that suddenly Rosamund grew up? Like we know something happened, but there was like all these steps, this entire journey that Rosamund took that tells us how she got to become like a grown-up in like the space of a book. So yeah, there's those big spoilers, but the fun is getting to those things and understanding how or why, because they're just so weird. They're so weird.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, Ferdinand and Rosamund being endgame, like when I read it, like when I spoiled myself with that, I was like, what? How? Like, it was the how that I wanted to find out. Like, I was hungry to understand how. How?
Exactly. All the fan arts and fanfics only made me want to read it more and be more excited and just keep me entertained while I was reading it. And so, like, yeah. It's very spoiler proof. I feel like with Hannelore right now, I'm having a whole ass experience of just like, what? This is actually about Hannelore. Like, it's not about Rosamund doing stuff and like saving Ferdinand or anything. Like right now, I'm just week by week annoyed by Hannelore and her decisions and
Welcome
thoughts.
to our world. Yep. I like Fergie comment is there. Well, first of all, he said, "Gotta twist that knife." Yes, that's what I wrote as POV in mind of the same exact moment when Eckhart dies, because I worked my butt off to lead to this moment of devastation, so you bet I'm gonna milk it as much as I can. Anyway, but then also, how do we get to the end game without it being ick? Exactly, right? I really liked Ferdinand from watching the anime. Like, I thought he was an awesome character. Reading that he ends up with the protagonist, I was like, huh. Like, I was like, okay, I did mental gymnastics to but I was more like, why and how and what? And yes, there was like that kind of like, but it does make sense once you read through it. But yeah, like this is one of the series that you kind of don't want to get spoiled. Like, you can get spoiled and enjoy it still, but you also don't want to get spoiled because you will immediately go like, oh, their endgame, oh yuck, no, okay, I'm not gonna read the whole thing. So I'm like, no, just give it a chance.
Honestly, there are plenty of people. Honestly, if someone will drop this series because they found out that she ends up with Ferdinand when they are like at the beginning of the story, I feel like they will drop out this series even if it's later on. Even if that person like sees the build up and stuff and still will not like it. You know, like some people just don't like it even after the whole series is done. You know.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of funny in a sense though, because like people at least think of it maybe as like Ferdinand grooming her, and in a sense, like yes, he did be a educator to her, but Ferdinand didn't want anything to do with that gremlin until like the 9th hour of the story, and it's just like, oh, you're an adult now, and I guess okay, sure.
If there was any grooming,
I'll be your handler.
If there was any grooming, it was Rosamund grooming him. I'm sorry, you guys.
Well, I'm sure if that part of the story came out in anime today, the tourists, as they're called, would definitely call it grooming.
I am unaware of the term you used earlier, but yeah, there's definitely going to be like people who will be like saying all kinds of stuff. So, well,
yeah, no, there will be people who will not like this aspect of the story and maybe not give it a chance to the whole story, or even if they give it a chance, just not like it at all, no matter what. So I'm having my peace with it, you know?
Yeah.
Well, they're called tourists, as in people who go to another country and tour, because they are more recent additions to the anime fandom, and there's issues with that.
Huh. Is it just
Yeah,
I thought you meant in a sense, or no, you go.
No, I wanted more explanation on that term. Please ask your question. Maybe it'll.
I thought it was more viewed in the sense where it's just like an anime casual. It's just like I only watch the anime. I don't know the source material. I'm not that versed in the world. So they're a tourist to the show if they're only watching it on like a weekly seasonal binge. Ooh, what's the new anime this season? Ooh, Bookworm, what's this about? Ooh, that's the end game.
There's definitely going to be that aspect too, but yeah, that's not what I was talking about.
Okay.
Yeah. You were talking about even more casual people who maybe don't even or barely watch anime, and they hear like, yes, incest. Yes, pedophilia. Oh my god.
That's probably like my sister. I had her watch. She watched the first half of season 1. She thought it was cute, and then she was like, magic. I was like, yeah, magic. And she's like, And then later on, she's like, what? They end up together? And I'm like, yeah. And she's like, that's so weird. What are you watching? I'm like, shut up.
Yes, that's exactly that's exactly the aspect. But I do want to encourage that we be careful what we say, because certain words will get us in trouble with YouTube because they.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm kind of just like cruising on because I'm like the views are not that high, but yeah, if it were the other channel, please refrain from using certain words.
Sorry.
No problem.
Sorry.
So yeah.
You're fine. We're not calling anyone out.
I'm calling myself out. I'll be careful. But yeah, a lot of people who are very maybe have watched a few shonen and that's it, have a lot of opinions just hearing the title or just like a little being spoiled a little bit, and then they're like, yep, I made up my mind, I'm gonna write an essay on why nobody should watch it, you know. I've heard of this. Like, I have not watched more than 3 episodes, but I know everything that there is to know.
I hope they do that.
I've
Then I
heard
can do a counter essay to their essay.
Well, I can definitely elaborate quite a bit on this subject when we end the live stream.
Yeah, okay.
That's on.
All right, let us then just finish on A World Away. Okay, so Myne is going into labor. It's still spring. She's supposed to be doing the summer, so she's, I don't know, like at least 2 months early, at least. You know,
there's a lot of blood.
Yeah, time flows a little different in Yurgenschmidt, so yeah, it's kind of dangerous what Aurelia saw. Mm-hmm.
That baby is impatient. She's like, hey, I want to live, and this is going to be my last day available, so let's get to living.
So yeah, that's where we end. We are going to pick up later, but before we end and then just end the stream, is there anything else about this chapter that we read?
So about this part with the baby, while I was reading, I was like, he's giving a lot of mana to Eckhart. Like, okay, Eckhart needs it. Eckhart is in a bad situation, and she needs to get to him and everything. But like, she's sending a lot of mana. She can't be throwing away mana all day. You know, like it's. I was thinking about like, what's that doing to the baby? You know?
Yeah. So take your pick as to what caused the baby to suddenly just come. Could have been the mana situation, could have been a psychological shock. I mean, she experienced like a really traumatizing death. Like maybe her body didn't feel it, but she was in it, you guys. Like she could sense everything. Like, so, oh gosh, I don't know.
I'm personally thinking it's somewhere along the lines of the last will. I don't know how pregnant people react to such an experience, but I'm thinking maybe it's a shared experience since it's both mother and child.
Yeah. Then add to it the fact that she has Eckhart's name stone. Just a lot of shenanigans happened, you guys. That first of all, shenanigans had to happen in order for her to become pregnant. And then, so all of that's going to be tied up in the life of the baby. And the baby is going to be affected by it too, for sure. I mean, the baby I kind of wanted to like dramatize it by saying like Esperanza was still, the night before she was very, very like kind of restless. So I don't know, just dramatizing, but you know, it could be any manner of factors. I didn't pick out specifically one, but there were several that came to mind as I wrote that part. Like it was the fact that they were united in like such like a powerful bond. The name swearing stone, the last testament doing its thing. Who knows? It could have been anything. Just the shock. Like I know for sure. Like several cases where after like a woman experiences like a deep shock, like she goes into labor like early. So that was also something that could have happened. So, yeah. We did get the reprise of Chaosifer, who was, you know, being her most hateful, amazing self. Ferdinand, who
and Haremi did an amazing job as usual.
You guys,
that gave me chills.
Oh man, I got the chills. And then Ferdinand being read by Fergie, who, oh my gosh, he just does such screams that just like, oh my gosh, and like just puts all this anguish and Ah,
I don't know. I just put my headspace into his headspace, and it's just like, okay, he's gonna be real upset.
Yes.
And it's funny. It's because like you're reading the thing, so I'm like pantomiming it out, and you're like, he twisted his, like he's gripping his hand, so like I'm like, making fists as tight as possible, and I end up like hurting my left hand slightly because I'm squeezing too hard, and it's just like ah.
So a method
good.
actor.
Yeah, kind of. I guess.
Love it, love
Yeah.
it. Making
I
full
mean,
use of
I'm
all your
also
acting
imagining-
chops, for sure. What was it, Yukihime?
Yeah, I'm also imagining everything that happens in the scene and like, okay, this person goes there, but still, Fergie, you scared me and my boyfriend in the next room.
I'm sorry. I scared my brother in the next room over as well, because like during recording he pops his head in and it's like, huh? And I'm looked at me and I'm just like, I give him the thumbs up and just like everything's fine, just leave me alone.
I love it. This is the kind of determination I am looking for. You guys, we really need to do something with these wonderful, brilliant voice actors. I don't know what we can do. Like some project. I don't know. I like to think of random ideas, you guys. So don't listen to me. But I think you guys are all so gifted, and I am just so incredibly honored that you are lending your various efforts and talents and voices to this work. Thank you so much, you guys. It's so
Yes, all of
exciting.
you are so much more talented than I am.
Shut up. Are you fishing
Don't
for
sell yourself
compliments?
short.
Are you
You're not
fishing
allowed
for
to be like me.
compliments? And of course, Patrick, you are also amazing. You are included in the beautiful voice actors.
Yeah.
What? Jeez. I can never make
Yeah, we had
everybody happy in this place.
Yeah, we had an amazing Eckhart for 120 chapters nearly.
Yeah.
Right?
That was awesome.
I have to say, whenever you spoke like gently and softly to mine, I thought it was so my heart. Yeah. So don't.
Agree.
Yeah. You had like that, just like yeah. I loved it. You guys. So we are just excited because we're almost there. Next week we will do a Wednesday read 4 o'clock, I think, unless I have something going on. But I think I have that. Sorry. I'm just doing one last check, but it should be okay. Wednesday 20. Oh yeah, okay, awesome. Oh yeah, it's clear. So Wednesday 4 p.m. Pacific. I hope you can join us, everybody. We will pick up on the next chapter. I actually wrote this chapter in. This is part 1. I wrote a huge chapter, and I was like, no, it's going to take forever if we read the whole chapter. So thinking of our read along, I actually split the chapter in half. So instead of this read along, this work being 116, it'll be 117. We will pick up with that, like I said before. On Wednesday, it'll be titled Dark Horizon Part 2, because of course I have no imagination to come up with titles, apparently. Ooh, and it's already highlighted. We should just read it right now. No. We will not read it. We have to rest. So I hope you look forward to it. There's still some questions left to answer. Like, what do you guys have questions on? Actually, I do want to know, what questions do you have? Because I'm about to write the epilogue, and if there's anything that I haven't yet covered. Any questions you guys have that you hope will be answered in the next chapter?
The stone. Hersphere.
Hersphere.
Maybe?
The Hersphere name stone. Yeah, Dolores did ask about it. She was like, hey, where is it? Right?
Yeah, so let's see how that plays out in the ending.
If it plays out.
If it plays out, but like at this point, like I feel like it would be weird not to play at all.
Yeah, right. I mean, after all, I did title like 3 chapters after the Hersphere.
Yeah, and it was just in general a very massive plot point. So like I feel like it needs to do something. Little bit.
Okay. Good. Ferdinand just vanished into the light. What the heck happened? Is he just dead? Did he die? Well, we don't know.
He's on his way to Myne.
What will he encounter? What is going on in Ehrenfest?
Destruction.
Destruction. That's right. Let's see. What else? Any other thing that I need to cover besides the Hersphere, the Ferdinand? Well,
I'm thinking. I don't know.
Well, okay. That makes my job easier than writing this darn epilogue. All right, you guys.
I like it tied up really nicely all the other character stories. So like everything is resolved on that side. Like Eckhart is dead for the last time.
Oh, gee. Yeah, I'm not going to bring up Eckhart's death again. I won't bring it. Like I won't do
Sure.
I won't do a POV of like now like the stones looking on. I'm not gonna do that.
Just remember, folks. She's gonna tear our hearts out next time.
Well, yeah,
exactly.
But yeah, I mean this is called Dark Horizon 2. So if Dark Horizon was painful, Dark Horizon 2 is gonna be doubly painful. Okay. Well, that's not how it works, but just the title does indicate some troubling times ahead. I hope you join us for that. Thank you guys for reading. We have the following people were the ones responsible for this beautiful reading, where Ferdinand was read by JC Fergie, Patrick read Eckhart, Teal read Myne/Rosamine, Yukihime read Aurelia and Adelaide, I read Dolores and Elvira, and then Hirami read Chaosifer and Gowenthal. And highlights brought to you by Hirami. Thank you so much to all of you who make these read-alongs possible, and to those of you watching, I hope you enjoyed them. Hope you join us. Hop on over to the Discord server. I mean, you can do so by joining my other channel. Oh my gosh. I'll put a link somewhere. Join us. We would love to have you and polish that talent, which I know you have in there somewhere. Or if not, at least just to fangirl with us. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you guys have a beautiful weekend. Say bye-bye, gang.
Bye-bye.
Bye, gang.
Bye, gang.
Adios.
Good chat.